Dark were the skies and chill was the wind as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did crowd for a savior, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shivering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strewn across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one Murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Please. It begins now. Yes, indeed, folks, you're tuning to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. Welcome to the show today, and a very special day it is, because it's Sunday, which is supposedly quite special, so I've been told. Oh yeah, we've got something coming on a little bit later on called, oh yeah, what's the name of that guild again? Oh yeah, Nihilum. Nihilum coming on later, just after this show. An interview of epicness, 2 hours of interview awesomeness with Eki and Awake from Nihilum. Very special event, folks. So welcome to the show, and I'm honoured to be the pre-show for this very special event. And after that, of course, we have Oaktail and Hordak versus the World and the Weekend Report. 8 odd hours of awesome. Brilliant. Right, well, what have I been doing this week? The simple answer to that is endeavouring to sell PS3s, and just let me tell you how difficult those damn things are to sell. It's not entirely surprising, let's face it. I mean, you can look at the machine. It's a very, very large, black George Foreman grill with a really powerful processor in it, and a drive for some kind of new DVD, which nobody has a good enough TV to actually notice the difference on yet. And it's 425 UK pounds. You know how much that is in dollars? That is $800. You know how much that is in euros? That is, I don't know, because what the hell's a euro anyway? It's like 700, something like that, I don't know, but it's incredibly expensive. And trying to sell these things is a nightmare. Now, on launch day, I was in my store, and we'd taken 31 pre-orders for these things, yeah? Which, for a store my size, is not bad, because it's a pretty small store, so we have most of the pre-order customers coming, about half of them. So I sell the unit, and I'm trying to sell them extras, because I've been set a target where I have to sell 3 extra things on top of the PlayStation. So I need to sell, like, an extended warranty, at least 2 games, and maybe a controller, yeah? The extended warranty doesn't even count as one of the 3 things. So I have to fight all day for that. And I managed to sell 2 other units which, you know, haven't been pre-ordered. And then I go in on Saturday to pick up my copy of Stalker and ask them, how many PlayStation 3s have you sold, guys? And they said, 3. 3 machines. One day after launch, we have a full stock of these machines, and we've sold 3. Oh, God. Thank you, Sony, for universally failing at everything. Well, at least we won't have a one-format dominance this time round, anyway. So, yeah, that's my rant for the week. You're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio, and despite what you might think, I actually do talk about World of Warcraft from time to time. Coming up later in the show, we have Ask the Murloc, which I've actually managed to salvage this time round. Evil Adobe Audition. I've actually switched back to an incredibly old version of the software, and you know what? It works fine. Also got a bit of Nubcake news, covering some of the news that never actually happens. And Rapping the Forums deals with a very edgy subject this week, as well as all the usual features, including...
Second Wind!
Yes, Second Wind. Second Wind is a very, very wonderful thing. I'm far away from my mic, and now I'm close to it. Brilliant. Second Wind is all about what we did last week. It's kind of like a serial thing. Not the kind of cereal you eat, but a radio cereal from week to week. It's the radio equivalent of stale Wheatos. And it's awesome. We love it. So yeah, you can expect Second Wind. And what exactly happened last week on Second Wind? Last week's Second Wind content was the following question. How do you beat WoW? What would you need in order to be a WoW beater, as far as games go? It's a very tricky question because, let's face it, people are already trying. WoW has such a massive market dominance at this point in time that everyone is jumping on the bandwagon. I mean, I've heard there's going to be a Dragon Ball Z MMO, we've got Firefly MMO, World of Darkness, we already know there's a Warhammer Fantasy MMO, and there's going to be a Warhammer 40k MMO. I mean, MMOs are bloody everything. The Mr. Men MMO, the Teletubbies MMO. It's going to happen. Because MMOs is the new buzzword. It's like collectible card games were years ago. There was a collectible card game of anything. Absolutely everything. EastEnders, the collectible card game. Yeah. It does happen. So, I say, MMOs are the new buzzword, and for some reason, everybody gets it wrong. I mean, we can look at the latest effort as a WoW bit was Vanguard, which failed absolutely miserably. It went overly complex and it missed the point, and the conclusion we came to last week was, why did it miss the point? It's too hardcore. And if you make a hardcore MMO like EVE, which I made a comparison with last week, EVE versus WoW, again, EVE is a hardcore game. It's a game designed for hardcore players, and Vanguard is the same, and all these other MMOs, all fighting for this same small market. And then WoW comes along and says, oh yeah, I'm actually going to allow you to play, and it doesn't have to involve excruciating pain. It's the same as if you've ever played an MMO that's ever had a death penalty, you'll know exactly what excruciating pain is. If you've ever played an MMO that has a penalty as regards to dying in PvP, again, I take the example of the old MUD that I used to play. If I died in PvP, not only could I lose experience, but I would lose everything on my corpse because someone would take it while I was dead. I would be resurrected, I would go back to my corpse, and everything would be gone. If I was lucky, the corpse would still be there. If not, someone would have taken its head off, dragged it off to another part of the world, and buried it. I've had that happen before. It's really quite unpleasant. And let's not even go into the fact that if you play a troll and you go outside in the sunshine, your entire character gets deleted. I kid you not. It's a horrific thing. Now, again, that's the hardcore side of things. WoW isn't hardcore, no matter what you might say. Even, endgame PvE is not necessarily hardcore. Either way, you've got an option to deal with that some more hardcore element. Yeah, if you don't want to bash your head against a brick wall for hours upon hours, days upon days, weeks, months, and everything else in between, then you don't have to. So, we had a few emails in with regards to this, and you can email anything, as long as it's relatively savoury, to themurloc@gmail.com. Yes, that is the murloc@gmail.com for this week. Yo. So, what do we got? I have a few interesting emails as regards to this. Second Wind. This is a long one. This is from a guy called Savile. He's from the guild Synergistic on Deathicus US, and he says this. TB, there will be no WoW killer for a few more years unless Blizzard really drops the ball. World of Warcraft has such a great core following right now, simply because of the lore behind the world. Warhammer has a great following as well, but frankly, the issue that will kill it is the Warhammer focus on PvP. A hardcore PvP aspect, like EVE has and Warhammer proclaims it will have, drives away newer players or players that would rather play an MMO for more casual purposes. An MMO FPS may be really attractive to these people, but answer me this, why aren't they already solely playing Gears of War or Halo 2? If Blizzard wants to help the game get even better, have each zone in Outland be completely up for grabs in a Terracar Forest-style PvP event. The person who holds all a dozen nodes wins the zone for like 3 or 4 hours. It's a friendly zone to you and a hostile zone to the other faction. This would help keep the PvP audience in the game while not angering the PvE and new player groups so much. I would love to see player housing and guild housing. It wouldn't unbalance the game, would make RP a squee with joy. Just do like AQ2 did and make your home an instance only accessible by you, and the guild halls only accessible to guilds who pay a fee in-game for a key. Make it a 40-man raid instance without any mobs and perhaps a vendor and bank RPG-centric? Yes, but it solidifies the hold on that community. To solidify the hold on the PvE audience, Blizzard needs better customer service and needs to beta test their own content. The new endgame is looking as bad as Vista right now. Great show, and feel free to paraphrase it if it's too long. No, paraphrasing is for the devil. So yeah, that's a lot of very good points. The PvP idea is pretty good. Whether or not every single zone should be like that, I don't know. It does really, really impede lower-level players. It could be a real turn-off in that sense. If you're just entering Hellfire and it's held by a bunch of level 70s who are going to kill everything in the way, not only that, but the NPCs are going to kill them as well. That's going to drive people away. I do agree, though, that certain zones should be influenceable in some way or another. The question is, why would you even want to hold the actual objective? this is the problem which has really run into PvP in World of Warcraft. It's like, why do it? All these objectives are pretty much pointless aside from a little buff that you get. It doesn't really change anything. Aside from that, though, it's a good set of ideas, and I do agree with his point there. If Warhammer Online goes heavy PvP, which I imagine it will, and if it goes hardcore PvP, it could lose out. Not that I won't try it, because I'm a big Warhammer buff and I do love that kind of thing. I will try it. Whether or not I like it, I'm not so sure. Whether or not it's going to be a WoW beta, we don't know. Because I can't see the endgame content on it being anything near, bearing in mind it's a PvP-centric game. The point that he did make about MMO FPS, he's kind of missing the point there, I noticed. He's asking why aren't people solely playing Gears of War, Halo 2. There's a very big reason for that. If you look back at PlanetSide, and the reason anyone played PlanetSide, one, huge battles. I mean, I'm talking 500, 600 people battles. Not only that, but you have progression, as in every kill you make gains you experience. Every certain amount of experience you gain a level, which allows you to access more gear. It's not a sense of giving you better gear, it's a sense of giving you access to a wider range. You can only spec into certain things depending on how many points you have. And that depends on your battle rank. Now, people want something persistent. If someone pulls off a good MMO FPS, it will pull a huge number. The problem is, of course, PlanetSide never really did it properly. And the only other one that I can think of is World War II Online, which is a complete and total joke. So, that's an interesting point to make, though, that anything like that can potentially attract casual players that just want to jump in and play. And again, it's this casual market that Blizzard has tapped into very, very well. It's a very accessible game from the get-go, and by the time you do get to endgame content, you know what you're doing. It's not like they're throwing you in and saying, right, now you've got to go raid Naxxramas, and you've only been playing for 5 minutes. That's not how it works. You don't go out and feel completely and totally lost. You are, to some degree, led by the nose, and that's not necessarily a very bad thing. If anyone wants to beat WoW, they've got to have something that accessible. Now, I've been looking at the upcoming MMOs, and I can't really see all that many that might be there, but let's go and have a look on MMORPG.com and see what we can see. There is one thing that I am about to beta test, and that's Dungeon Runners, which is a test to be a casual hack-and-slash dungeon-crawling MMO. Nice and simple, there's nothing particularly complex about it, and it's got a very comedic theme to it. For instance, I believe someone acquired let me just think of a random example, an epic crossbow called the Cereal Box Crossbow of the Spastic Ape. You know, there's just some really funny stuff in there. Now, I mean, upcoming, let's have a look at the most anticipated RPGs. Warhammer Online, we're talking about that, PvP. Age of Conan is a little bit too hardcore, also a bit PvP, and it's not a great world to base it in my opinion. Stargate Worlds, potentially great. Whether or not it's going to work, different matter entirely, and how long has it been in development, we haven't heard anything about it. Star Trek Online, yeah, potential there. Definite potential there because it's a really good world to base something in. How they're going to do it, though, when everyone wants to be a starship captain, I really do not know. I can't see them sitting in engineering playing with a console for 3 hours on end to gain experience. Lord of the Rings Online, we already know, is dismal. If anyone's actually tried it, it's nothing more than a carbon copy of EverQuest, WoW, and everything else, and it's completely PvE-centric, and it's a little bit too Care Bear, for my honest opinion. It's a great world to base it in, but I don't think it's going to succeed. Pirates of the Burning Sea, potentially a pirate MMO could be really, really good, but I can see some serious imbalance, and I can just see it turning out like Eve. It's a capitalist MMO, and the one with the biggest ship and the biggest fleet is the one that kicks ass, and if you can't run away, you're very, very dead. And Huxley, an MMO FPS coming out with PvE elements, we just don't know because we've really heard very little about it. It could turn out to be great, but something based on the Unreal 3 engine is going to be not so accessible to so many people, and that's a bit of a dangerous thing. So there's your top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 anticipated MMORPGs, and I don't believe any of them are going to capture the casual element that WoW has. It's funny to see that the massive range of people playing WoW attests to its popularity and its appeal to a particular audience. You're looking at businessmen, kids, from the age of 8 upwards play this game, no problem at all. Hell, I think even kids actually younger than that could play without too much of a problem. Old age pensioners play it. Businessmen, wives, husbands, everybody, every walk of life, every ethnic group, every group as regards to work and social background plays WoW. Because it's just that easy to get into, and it's appealing. It's nothing special. It's the same. It's the same kind of settings. It's a fantasy setting with orcs, goblins, elves, as you'd expect. But that appeals to people. It always has appealed to some people. and the setting works. It's got a good, solid basis in game lore, and it's got a good reputation behind it. Now, see if we've got any more emails as regards to this, and I do believe that we do. Let's have a look. Guilds Synergistic. There we go. Right. Topic at hand. This is from Jeremy Covell. He says, on to the topic at hand. A WoW beta? I highly doubt it. I can only think of two distinct possibilities remaining for an MMO to beat WoW at this point in time. At one point I would have said DDO, simply due to the fan base, but they did such an absolute crap as regards to the design that any chance of that has gone out of the window. A White Wolf World of Darkness MMO would, if designed well, demolish anything else on the market. The fan base for White Wolf holds is massive, and there are enough PC gamers that like the horror genre to add to that. You've also got to bear in mind the success of the vampire PC games. If designed well, it would seriously knock WoW down a peg. The only other thing I could conceive being a WoW beta would be, and don't laugh because it's a distinct possibility that's been rumored for a while, a Harry Potter MMO. I know that to any grown-up, mature, hardcore gamer, that is Hello Kitty Adventure Island kind of concept, but given the obsessive fanbase that Harry Potter has, think of the sheer numbers. Regardless of how well it is designed, just having the Harry Potter name in it pulls in every 7 to 16-year-old who reads the books. Zomguy can be a Hogwarts champion. I know it will make us groan to think of it, but it could do well. Yeah, that is a disgraceful concept, but yeah, I do see your point there. It could quite easily succeed if they ever decide to do that. It's certainly a possibility. So to conclude, what can beat WoW? It's got to be casual, it's got to be accessible, it's got to be fun and colourful to play, it's got to be not so overly complex, and it's got to introduce your concepts gradually from time to time, and it also has to have a backing in a seriously good franchise. Otherwise, everybody is going to ignore it, and that would suck. You're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. I have a track for you. Dragon Force was requested. Dragon Force will be played. This is Blackfire. The Heal 'em interview is coming up right after this show. Stay tuned for that. Tell your friends, tell your realms, tell the world. Enjoy.